AI is totally set to change the game for human resources. But hold on, this isn't about just chasing the latest shiny object or buying the newest tech. It's about playing it smart, having a real playbook to make sure you're making the right moves. Okay, let's get into it.
So let me start with a kind of crazy question. What if your company knew, like really knew, that you might be thinking about quitting? I mean, way before you even dusted off your resume or updated your LinkedIn. Sounds a little bit like a movie, doesn't it?
Well, guess what? AI can do exactly that. It's called Employee Flight Risk Analysis, and it's just one of a ton of tools out there. But here's the thing. That's the real problem, isn't it? There's so much noise, so much hype. How in the world, as an HR leader, do you figure out where to actually place your bets to see a real return?
And that is exactly what we're going to break down today. We're going to walk you through a super simple but really powerful framework to help you cut through all that hype and find the stuff that actually has a high impact.
Okay, so the whole thing really just comes down to two big ideas for every single AI tool you look at. First, what's the potential value? What's the real payoff for us? And second, what's the feasibility? Can we actually pull this off successfully? That's the whole game. Value versus feasibility.
All right, so let's dig into value, because it's not just one thing. First up, experience. Does it make life genuinely better for your employees? Then you've got efficiency. Is it going to save us time, save us money? Super important. But it's also about your reputation, right? Your employer brand. Does this help you become the place everyone wants to work? And finally, there's organizational health. Are we building a stronger culture and getting the skills we need to win down the road? All of that's value. Now, for the other side of the coin, feasibility. I mean, a tool could promise you the moon, but if you can't get it off the ground, what's the point? So you got to ask, technically, does this thing actually work as advertised? Is it solid? Then, internally, are we ready for this? Do we have the right people, the right data, the buy-in from leadership? And you can't forget the external stuff. Are there any legal traps, new regulations, or even, bad PR waiting for us around the corner?
Okay, so here's where it gets really cool. Once you start mapping out all these AI tools using value and feasibility, you'll see they start to group together. They naturally fall into 3 strategic buckets. And the best way to think about it, it's like you're building an investment portfolio, but for your HR department.
First up, let's talk about your smartest bets. We call these the likely wins. If we're talking investments, these are your blue chip stocks. The solid, reliable ones that are pretty much guaranteed to pay off.
So what exactly is a likely win? It's that perfect sweet spot, right? It scores high on value and it scores high on feasibility. The tech is already proven, it's not a nightmare to set up, and the benefits are crystal clear. These are the ones you start with to get some quick wins on the board and build momentum.
So what are we talking about here? Think about something like an internal talent marketplace. This is huge. It helps you connect your own people with new gigs and projects right inside the company, unlocking all this hidden potential. Or, hey, that flight risk tool we talked about at the very beginning, that's a direct hit on retaining your best people. And of course, skills management platforms that give you a clear map of the capabilities you have versus the ones you need. High value, totally doable, that's a likely win.
Okay, so you've got your blue chips. Now let's talk about the next part of your portfolio, the calculated risks. These are kind of like those exciting tech startups. The potential reward, absolutely massive. But so is the risk.
These are the ideas that promise the world they have huge potential value, but for one reason or another, they have low feasibility right now. The tech might still be a little buggy, or it's just way too complicated to implement at the moment, or the culture change it requires is just too steep. It's a gamble.
A perfect example is AI agents. These little bots that could handle really complex HR stuff all on their own. The value there is off the charts, but the tech just isn't there yet. As this quote points out, the systems have real problems with accuracy and reliability. That is the definition of a calculated risk.
And it's not just that one. Think about bias detection tools. So important for fairness, right? But the tech can have its own blind spots, and it brings a lot of scrutiny. Or a virtual coach for your leaders. Amazing potential, but it could easily feel a little too Big Brother is watching if you're not careful. See, the point isn't that these are bad ideas. They're just on the bleeding edge. You have to go in with your eyes wide open.
All right, on to our last category in the portfolio. These are what we call marginal gains. Now, these aren't the big, flashy, change the whole company kind of tools. Nope. These are specialized, almost surgical tools for very specific problems.
So their overall value, if you look at every company out there, is kind of low. But, and this is a big but, if you have the exact problem this tool was built for, it can be an absolute game changer. It's not one size fits all, it's more like a custom-made key for a very specific lock.
Payroll optimization is a fantastic example. It's an AI that hunts for errors and fraud in your payroll. Now think about it. If you're a giant global corporation with super complex payrolls and tons of overtime, a tool like this is worth its weight in gold. Huge value. But if your company's payroll is pretty simple and straightforward, the value just plummets. See? It's a marginal gain.
Okay, so now you have the framework. You've got your likely wins, your calculated risks, and your marginal gains. So what now? How do you actually take all this and build a real, concrete action plan for your company? It's actually a pretty simple three-step plan. First, assess. Look at all these possibilities, but through the lens of what your business actually needs to solve. Step 2, customize. Those value and feasibility scores, they're not set in stone. You have to adjust them for your company's reality. Be honest. And finally, number 3, prioritize. You build out your roadmap just like a real portfolio. Start with those likely wins to get some points on the board and build momentum for the bigger stuff.
Look, if there's one thing you take away from all this, it should be this. The days of just playing around with AI, of random experiments, are over. If you want to see real, tangible success, having a structured, thought-out plan, it's not just nice to have anymore, it's absolutely essential.
At the end of the day, AI is just a tool. It's a powerful one for sure, but it's just a tool. You are the architect here. You're the one designing the future of work. So the real question is, now that you have the playbook, what are you going to build?